a coat, but not a tie. That's partway there. A retired coat. Can people hear me? I'm going to be reading all poems from a single book, a book called Concerning the Book That Is the Body of the Beloved. It's a continuous sort of lyric sequence of about 180 poems, and none of them have titles. So I'm going to try to orient you a little bit beforehand and then just start doing it. This phrase appeared in my head a while back one morning. It just said, the book that is the resurrection of the body of the beloved, which is the world. And as is the way with those phrases, I understood completely what it meant in that moment. And indeed, I knew it would be the title of my next book. And then my publisher said, no, that doesn't fit on a cover. It's going to be a little shorter than that. In any case, I'd always thought of myself as a lyric poet, which to me meant you write about the great mysteries of love and loss. And I did my job. I wrote about those things. And then this phrase came into my head and it said, you know, you forgot something. There's love, there's loss, then there's resurrection. And I said, well, you know, don't forget I'm not religious. And they said, but it's not that. It's the resurrection into the book. And I said, the book? And they said, well, that's all the poems and songs that have ever been written. And they've been written and gathered together in this humongous, invisible anthology so that we can find them when we need them to help us live. And I said, this giant invisible book? And they said, yeah, it's like an iPod the size of the moon. And you just download what you need, or it downloads itself. Well, you can imagine what it would be like to talk to voices like that for a sustained amount of time. In any case, the sequence, one thing I have to explain, the sequence sort of begins with references to Osiris. Osiris was an Egyptian god who was torn apart, dismembered, and by an evil brother god. And then Isis, his sister wife, reassembled the parts of his body and resurrected him. And this sequence of poems kind of explores that theme, the theme of the beloved, of some person or thing that one loves in the world, and the loss of the beloved, and then the restoration of that. So I'll just start reading. This is a poem that begins sort of before the book. There's a lot of incantation in the sequence, repetition of terms. Resurrection of the body of the beloved, which is the world, which is the poem of the world, the poem of the body. Mortal ourselves and filled with awe, we gather the scattered limbs of Osiris, that he should live again, that death not be oblivion. The beloved is dead, limbs and all the body's miraculous parts scattered across Egypt, stained with dark mud. We must find them, gather them together, bring them into a single place, as an anthologist might collect all the poems that matter into a single book, a book which is the body of the beloved, which is the world. It's not magic. It isn't a trick. Every breath is a resurrection. And when we hear the poem, which is the world, when our eyes gaze at the beloved's body, we're reborn in all the sacred parts of our own bodies. The heart contracts. The brain releases its shower of sparks. And the tear embarks on its pilgrimage down the cheek to meet the smiling mouth. Sadness is there too, all the sadness in the world, because the tide ebbs, because wild waves punish the shore and the small lives lived there, because the body is scattered, because death is real, and sometimes death is not even the worst of it. If sadness did not run like a river through the book, why would we go there? What would we drink? This poem begins and ends with a quoted phrase. What is life? When you first hear that question, it echoes in your skull as if someone shouted in an empty cave. The same answer each time. The resurrection of the body of the beloved, which is the world. Every poem different, but telling the same story. And we've been gathering them in a book since writing began. And before that, as songs or poems people memorized and recited aloud when someone asked, "What is life?" So the experience for me was this chance to celebrate that joy of poetry and stuff, and the mystery of language that it seemed to me was something I'd never, reveling in misery, I'd left out the mystery of joy. And the mystery of language. So this is thinking about the world and how the fact that we're that species in the world that has language creates a set of relationships and responsibilities. The river has a single song, which is itself. The tree has a song, the bird also. The heart knows all these songs and a million of its own. Neither the river nor the bird can write. The tree moves its branches against the sky all day as if it's thinking about inventing its own alphabet. But nothing comes of it. So it's still up to us. We're supposed to bring them into the book, make a place for them in our poems. Silence. Does silence make things vanish or confirm their disappearance? Is the beloved who has died buried more deeply by silence than by earth? Even closed and locked away, the book whispers about the beloved in dreams. Still, it's a whispering difficult to understand, impossible almost. But if we find the book and open it, if we find the poem that is trying to find us, the poem the beloved wrote and sent out on the long journey toward our heart, if we find that poem, it all makes sense, and the silence recedes before the beloved's quiet voice speaking to us. One of the things about the notion of just thinking about the book is that it gave me a chance to write about all these poets that I'd always loved, and because they were all part of the book, it seemed to me. And so there's a phrase in here called "the feel of not to feel." It's a phrase from John Keats. To feel, to feel, to feel. Failing that, why live? Might as well be a coffin drifting on a gray flood. The feel of not to feel, that counts too. Anguish is one clear sign we're still here. But we all need help. The beloved's there, and the world also. And then there's the book, poem after poem, song upon song, and all with the same chorus. Wake up, you're alive. Now the snow is falling even more than an hour ago. The pine in the backyard bows with the weight of it. 2 years ago, my father died. What love we had, hidden under misery, weighed down with years of silence. And now, maybe the poem can release us. Maybe the poem can express the love and let the rest slide to the earth as the snow does now, freeing the tree of its burden. To be alive, not just the carcass, but the spark. That's crudely put, but if we're not supposed to dance, why all this music? Calm down, calm down. But why calm down? When I'm dead and only a poem in the book read by someone not yet born, then I'll be calm. Then I'll tell them in a quiet voice what a miracle it is to be alive. I won't shout and jump around. I'll whisper it in her ear. And if I'm lucky, she'll shout and jump around. Her heart will beat a little faster. time to shut up. Voltaire said the secret of being boring is to say everything. And yet, I held back about love all those years, talking about death insistently, even as I was alive, talking about loss as if all was loss, as if the world did not return each morning, as if the beloved didn't long for us. No wonder I go on so. I go on so because of the wonder. Can people hear me? You can read the world without words. Eyes take in its dazzle. And you can read the body of the beloved by touch. You can do that much in all of its magic, but neither body nor world can be born again except by tongue. And to live once only, what if that's not enough? I guess one of the things behind the notions about the book for me were, and this is all very obvious, I guess, but I mean, I grew up loving Chinese poetry, Tang Dynasty Chinese poetry, written thousands of years ago. And what amazed me, I guess amazes me still, is just this notion that a poem could have been written like 2,000 years ago by some person. And yet I can read it now and feel their presence and feel the presence of the emotion that poem or song conjures up. That just seems to me, as it were, miraculous, and also makes, anyway, that really seems kind of stunning to me. How could that Chinese poet, dead 3,000 years, know how much we love the world? If only we could talk to him as he talks to us in his poem. If only we could say how much his words mean to us. Quick, write it down in the book. Send it to him 3,000 years from now. There's another thing about language and poetry was the way poets create words and thereby create new meanings. Sappho, one of my favorite poets, the ancient Greek poet who thought pretty much the only thing worth writing about was passionate love, and she invented this word, glucopichron, which is still in our language. She invented it. Bittersweet. Bittersweet. It knocks me out that someone could invent a word that becomes part of our world. Bittersweet, bittersweet, Sappho's word. She made it up. The complex taste of love. First, your whole mouth shudders and chokes. Your tongue revolts. Then the sweetness bursts and floods. Fruit of love, bitter then sweet. Loss, then restoration. We eat and we eat. Another poem about poems, I guess this is a Again, as I say, one of the nice things about this notion of the book is just I could write about my heroes. This poem kind of references a William Blake poem called The Tiger. I thought I was hunting for a poem, hours spent leafing through dusty books, huge anthologies. And all the time, the poem was stalking me. Tiger, burning in the forests of the night, eager to devour my heart. No, not my whole heart, only the rotten parts, only what needed to be renewed, only what needed. I put the beloved in a wooden coffin. The fire ate his body. The flames devoured her. I put the beloved in a poem or song, tucked it between 2 pages of the book. How bright the flames, all of me burning, all of me on fire and still whole. Three more poems. If a peach leads you into the world, into an appreciation of its delights, how much more so the beloved? A morsel of peach meat, a single kiss, and you know pleasure has depths beyond measuring. All this not subject to loss, but certain of it, guaranteed to vanish. Therefore, more precious, therefore brought back by poems and songs. The mouth open as if to sing, as if to sink its brave teeth in a peach. How lucky we are that you can't sell a poem, that it has no value. Might as well give it away. That poem you love, that saved your life, wasn't it given to you? Expecting so much, needing so much, and the poet delivers so little. We turn away in disgust. He did his best. She tried hard to give form to her love and grief. Not their fault that it fell flat and we were not moved. Maybe an old poem you must find in a book on a dusty shelf, or one not written yet, one you write yourself. Thank you.